Gaokao has always been an extremely competitive exam for university acceptances. Therefore, many incidents are manifested throughout the procedures of this exam. Suicidal rates are drastically high due to mass amounts of pressure and competition, and the Chinese education culture is known to be very rigorous and has almost no mercy on students. For instance, whenever I go back to China to visit family during summer vacation, all of my friends and relatives are studying day and night in order to be accepted into a good university. So the title and name of the university seems to be extremely important in defining individuals. Okay, so to sum it up, I just want to ask about personal thoughts on your or others' country's education environment in general.
So, I think Korean education system has a lot of things to fix. First of all, while academic ability is important, the mental health care system should be established and made accessible to everyone, especially for students. I think the education system in Asia, including China and India, is quite similar to South Korea. So I don't really like their education system, but I think Poland seems to have um, better education system and respect individuality, so I like about that one.
I agree with Yeram because I feel that mental health is not a thing that Korean students like to talk about, or it's better to say that they just don't know how to talk about mental health. It's something they simply overlook, and even though they're gaining like a lot of intense stress every day, they don't realize the stress they receive should be taken care of. And this is perhaps due to the Korean culture itself, where we don't care about our mental well being but rather focus on the results we achieve.
Yeah, I do agree. There's a lot of things that even the Indian education system can improve on. Like, again, like mental health and also like the sex imbalance, like how males have a higher literacy rate overall than women. However, I do think that these issues are being tackled, and I think that's amazing because during the British Raj, which is when the Britishers were colonizing India, the literacy rate for women was around 2 to 6%, but it's increased to about 65% now, which is, I think, great, and I think it's going to improve as time moves on.
I also just wanted to talk about how it's really important for students to have to find a balance through their lifestyle, not only through like their studying, but through how they live in general, because these daily habits can definitely contribute into how they study and the productivity, and ultimately how they live and how happy they are.
Yeah, and I think that that's what Poland's education system is doing well. I think the balance between work and study, I mean, like school and just free time. But I think that one thing that's similar with all our countries is that the systems are very like old-fashioned, right?
Yeah.
Do they change a lot throughout the years? Or is like the way of education very like the same as it was like 100 years ago or something?
Not 100 years. But it's been kind of stubborn, same
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
That's very
it's the same
true.
in Poland.
Actually, I think the Indian system, like the curriculum and the small changes keep happening. Some like students don't prefer. Some are good. Like recently, they increased. You know how I said the boards are only conducted in 10th and 12th.
Yeah.
1 year very recently just had to do boards in 8th, 9th, 10th, and 12th, and that was They thought it would reduce pressure because they wouldn't have to prepare for it for like 2 years, but it didn't work out that way.
But that's good. They're like trying to improve it,
For Korea, like they renew their curriculum every like quite frequently, but then the perspectives on studying in general doesn't change.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
studying has to be hard. We have to good at study. You have to be good at studying. You have to you have to get good grades and everything. Don't change. It's like a traditional thing.
The standards are still very similar. However, like I guess the content can be changed,
Yeah.
but the actual like I guess structure of learning is still pretty.
Yeah, but also like the students' right has been like improved so much because like few years ago like the teachers had the right to like beat their like students,
Yeah.
but then now they don't do
Yeah.
that anymore, and they had to like to Saturday school, and they don't do that anymore.
Oh yeah.
So I guess like it's improving, but still has a lot of like problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
So this would be our final question. What do you guys think renders the difference in education cultures?
I think in Poland something that really changed the education culture was like in history when the Soviet Union was like in charge of Poland, and they kind of like focused their, I don't know, I guess they improved the education system, which, for example, like the literacy rates improved and everything. So yeah, I think the influence of history changed that.
Yeah, I also agree with you that because for Korea, I think why Korea has such a competitive society is because Korea went through like an abrupt growth in economy throughout the history instead of like slowing growth of economy, and that led to the people to work harder in their jobs, and the government like establishing a stricter education system to make the students prepared to like work harder when they go out to the society. Yeah.
For India also, it was definitely the history with the British Empire coming in, because before them the education system is very different, with a more traditional outlook where people would go into these ashramas where there would be gurujis who would teach children, and they would have to like stay over, but it completely changed with the schooling system.
For me, I think the reason why there's this difference between the Western education and the Asian education is like dependent on the geographical stuff. So like how humans coexist with the nature, and how like Europe has a lot of grand landscapes, and like you naturally get healed from like seeing all the trees and like the forest and stuff. But on the other hand, Asian countries don't really have those. Like in particular, South Korea don't really have like grand landscapes and like great beaches and stuff. So I guess like the attitude toward life in general is like more optimistic in Europe, because they know how to relax with the nature.
I just think Europe is like divided in two. I think there's like the Eastern and the Western. The Western is the one you're talking about, I think, which is like very, I don't know, like forward and everything's so happy, I guess. Yeah, I think Eastern Europe is like in the middle between the Asian education system and like Western.
Isn't that how the Renaissance also spread there? Like the Renaissance started like 15th century in the Western Europe, and then it took like, a few centuries to get to the Eastern part too.
So I just thought that if South Korea India has a lot of great nature, and China does, but especially if South Korea had like more like great clear water beaches and like great nature, then like the students would have a more freer lifestyle towards education, if that makes sense.
Really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that like that's quite true.
I was also just thinking, okay, I think you guys know, but in the population in China, a very big proportion of that is older people. So older people do have a more fixed mindset and traditional values that are definitely very different to more modern values and belief systems. So I think that really does affect like the stubbornness, kind of traditional hard worker student. And also respect and culture. But I think that was a very well discussed topic. Thank you guys for listening.
Bye.